We're back and we are doing well. I'll let you. Well, you want me to explain it, or you want me to explain it?
Well, you go ahead, and then I'll add if I need to.
Okay. So we decided to rank the top. Well, there's only 16 teams in the SEC, but whatever. The 16 teams in the SEC. Now, the way I did it was if you're going to be a head coach tomorrow, and every job was open, what is your list of the teams that you would want to take over? And this is based on, and I'll tell you how I did my rankings. I think we both did this. We did it from 2020 to presently, and then also in the future, the next 5 years. So you're taking over with all the guys. No one can transfer. This is a purely hypothetical thing. So these are the 16 teams that I would like to take over if, Kirby, got sucked into some vortex and never was seen again. This is how it would work out for me.
Yeah, so, we're in the off season, sort of the dead season, and I think this is an interesting topic because I think we both feel, even though the committee and everybody, and the Big Ten won the national championship, everybody's wanting to write off the SEC. I think you and I both feel SEC is still the strongest conference. The way I looked at it was slightly different, but I think your criteria could still fit in most of these cases, is since 2020, who has had the best program and who in the future, given, the money, the recruiting, all those sorts of things.
Historically, yeah.
Yeah, who should continue to be the top programs. And I broke it down, since there's 16 teams, I put them in 4 groupings, but we'll just go however you want to whenever we get into it. So my categories, or the way I thought about it, was slightly different, and I don't think it's going to make much difference in where we shake out in terms of arguments for each one of these teams.
Yeah, I would just say top programs since 2020.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So I think number one, I think we both agree on, they're the only ones. Well, I guess Alabama would count, but outside of that, they're the only ones that have won the SEC or national titles, and that is the University of Georgia. Number one, congratulations. Great recruiting base. Like we said in the last video, make a ton of revenue. Classic Collective, big NIL. So with all that, I think that's the best program.
All right. I disagree. I put Texas because they've been to the playoffs the last 2 years. Georgia's only been in them once, and I know the format changed. The recruiting, they've got in terms of money and also in terms of recruiting, I think they got a leg up. They beat us in recruiting this year, and they got all the money they need to fill any kind of gaps in the roster. So I have Texas number one. I know that's up for the debate, but
I don't know how Georgia can beat Texas twice in one season, once with a backup quarterback. And Georgia's won 2 national championships. Texas has won nothing.
I looked at it, Max, from the money, the NIL, the momentum of making the playoffs the last 2 years, us only making it once, and what the future looks like. That's what Texas isn't going anywhere, not for a while.
Okay. Well, then we're going to get into the argument of I don't think Sark is a very good coach, but then that goes against my thing. But Texas has got to compete with Oklahoma. They got to compete with Texas A&M. They got to compete with LSU. They got to compete with Georgia coming in, Alabama coming in. They have to compete. Georgia, they have to compete with guys, but they're the home state. I guess the same argument could be made for Texas, but they're the home university. And I think Georgia, and recently, Georgia players are better than Texas players right now, high school wise. And I think you have a better high school programs in Georgia than you do Texas.
Look, if we redeem ourselves and go deeper into the playoffs and play in the championship game, I reserve the right to change it. But based on where we stand right now, I've got Georgia at number 2 and Texas at number 1.
Yeah, well, Texas got Arizona State and Clemson the first 2 rounds. Georgia got Notre Dame. I mean, the seeding was fucked up. I think whatever. I'm not gonna.
All right, so
By the way,
we got 16 teams, my man.
They got beat by Washington. I just Texas is not. Everyone blows it. It pisses. Anyway, number 2 is Texas for me, because of all the reasons that you just said, and not the reasons why they're number 1.
All right. Well, would love to hear y'all's opinion on who you think is right about this. But I've got Bama as number 3.
We both concur on that. Alabama's number 3. So number 4, I have LSU.
We're going to change on this one too. Even with Lane Kiffin not ever being seemingly to be able to win the big game, not getting in the playoffs, I actually have Ole Miss in my top 4.
No, I have them at number 5. So I'll go ahead and tell you. I have them at number 5. LSU has a better recruiting base. They don't have to go into NIL, so you got guys for at least 1 to 2 years that you can develop and stick around. NIL pretty good, historically really good. If they get the right coach who can recruit, they don't. I mean, I don't think Brian Kelly is a very good coach. We've argued about that before on here. LSU can be one of the top programs in all of the SEC. I think this is
where I would change mine. If I used your criteria of any job that was open, regardless, of whatever, I would certainly take LSU over my number 4 team and my number 5 team.
I agree with you on Ole Miss. I think they've done a really good job with NIL, managing a roster, building it. But I think LSU, given the fact they have a natural recruiting base, is better. All right, number 6 is Tennessee for me.
See, I had Tennessee at 5. I had A&M at 6.
Okay, see, I have them at 7. So
I had LSU at 7.
I think Tennessee since 2020 has been one of the better programs in the SEC. They're consistently winning. Though the problem, and this is whenever you start seeing more flaws with teams as you go down the list. Tennessee, if you're taking over that program, do you run the same offense that Heupel has? I think is gimmicky. Do the guys fit in your offense? I don't really know. And here's the other thing too. They have not, and the reason why they're not winning and why they will probably never win anything of substance until this changes, they have got to get better on the offensive and defensive lines, and they have continually not recruited that position really well. So I put them in at number 6 because you could get it right, and I know Tennessee's it's hard to recruit. I mean, we saw them
the other thing I had,
with Derek Dooley and Lane Kiffin, and then my favorite, the champion of life, Butch Jones. They went through that drought there, but if it's done right, you can win at Tennessee because you get the crazies supporting you.
You got the players, and I will go. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I did mine slightly different, right? I looked at where they have been and where they're kind of positioned going forward. I think Heupel's going to continue to be the media's darling. He's going to be able to put up points on a lot of people. That offense he runs, he's going to be able to recruit skill players on offense, receivers, quarterback, and even a running back. But he's got to get the offensive line and really the entire defense. If he finds him a defensive coordinator and gets him some recruits, and he's got this quarterback for another 3 years, Tennessee's going to be all right. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I think they will be a continual team that can win 8, 9, 10 games a year. All right, number 7, you said LSU, and we'll talk about them because I have A&M. You have A&M. Where'd you rank A&M?
I had A&M number 6. So I've got Tennessee, and then A&M, and then LSU.
Yeah. So A&M to me, they got a good recruiting base, good NIL, but again, they had with Jimbo, they had the top recruiting classes almost every year because of the NIL thing. They still never won. I don't know what it is. but they've never really been able to get the job done. And I think there's like some mojo going on in A&M. So that's why I wouldn't touch it. That's the only reason why I put them at 7s, because it's just a weird – I don't know why it's so hard to win there.
Well, I put them at number 6 because I think in a video we did during the season, we got off on topic of NIL.
Yeah.
And I said the college football landscape is going to tilt to Texas, and A&M's a player because of exactly what you said, the facilities, the NIL money. I don't know if they can get the coaching right. I guess that Elko guy, again, small sample size. But I think that's the reason I put A&M above LSU, just because of the access to the money and the facilities and the recruiting base of Texas. So there's my argument.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I could make the argument that they should be like somewhere in my list where Alabama and LSU, but they've had all these recruiting classes and they seem to never get it right, and I don't know what that is. And that's multiple.
There's
coaches.
A culture problem under Jimbo. I don't know about this
guy.
But
there was Sumlin too. He could recruit Sumlin, and he had Johnny Manziel and that whole crew. And then you had Jimbo, and then you have this Elko guy, and they had a massive collapse in I guess it would be October, right? And they always collapse in October, November. I don't know what it is, but that's why I put them at 7. So number 8, I put South Carolina.
That's what I got.
Oh, look at us. We finally agreed. South Carolina, I think, could be in that Tennessee realm where they win 8, 9, 10 games a year. I don't think they can ever win a national championship because of Georgia, because of
get in the college playoffs. If they get in the playoffs,
and I think
they got a defense like they had this year, they could cause some problems.
Yeah, and I think Sellers is a really good quarterback. I think he's only going to develop. Thank God
kids like Beamer and he can relate, so I think he's a good recruiter, right?
Yeah, he doesn't exist in my world. But again, they're never going to have enough to win the big one. So maybe they could, but I highly doubt it. All right, number 9, I have Missouri.
I had Missouri at 10. I had Florida at 9. And again, I go, and this is where I cheated. This is where I cheated and probably used I think Billy Napier surviving last year. Dude, the only question, he was gone. You do realize that.
Yeah.
He was and the only question was, do we have enough money to buy him out? The fact that he turned it around, kept the locker room together. They went on a run. They got that quarterback Lagway. They got a good recruiting base in the state of Florida. Yeah. So to go back to your thing is, if any job in the country was open, or not any in the country, but in the SEC, I would move Florida way the fuck up in my list.
Yeah, they would be up there with Georgia, Texas, Alabama, LSU.
Yeah.
They would be in that realm.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You got to have results early and often with Florida. I mean, as soon as you get the job, they expect you to win.
Yeah.
And then recruiting is going to be tough because you got to deal with Florida State. You got to deal with Miami. Then you got to deal with Georgia. And you got to deal with Alabama dipping in. And then you got to deal with the rest of the country coming in too, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the USC. Well, not the USCs, but the other programs out there. So it's a tougher job. So I had Missouri over them only because, and Missouri's, you don't really have a whole lot to recruit against out there. You have St. Louis, you have Kansas, you have Missouri. So you can do decently, and you can go into Texas even to recruit, which they have done. Also, the past 5 years, I think Eli Drinkowitz has done a great job with Missouri. Gary Pinkel was a really good coach. They won consistently. I think they are a good middle pack program, and they have consistently won. Either they have something going on athletically at their department where it's really well done and run well, or they have good support, and they might have both. I would take the Missouri job before I would take Florida job. So
really, I wouldn't. I would not.
Not even close.
It's easier to keep the job in Missouri than it is Florida. I think it's easier to win, especially in the era of NIL. because if I get hired at Florida, at my opening press conference, I'm going directly and I'm calling on you all. Y'all want to win? Y'all want to win fast? The only way to do that is through NIL. Get me some money.
You're going to be shocked where I have Florida. And then number 10, I have Arkansas.
Ooh, wow. You got that way above mine. At number 10, I had Kentucky. I mean, Stoops he's 8 or 9 wins. He's a solid middle of the pack. They got challenges, obviously, just like we talked about with the recruiting and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think this year was a little bit of an anomaly.
I do agree with that.
They're always tough on what we talked about Tennessee not being, Kentucky always is. They're the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I think Kentucky is a better program right now, historically, than Arkansas, and since 2020.
Arkansas was higher at the start of Sam Pittman in 2020 and 2021 than Kentucky was. So that's one of the reasons why I put Arkansas above Kentucky. Also, Arkansas has been to more bowl games. But I'll tell you why I picked Arkansas. You got Arkansas is a really good state to recruit. It's very underrated. But you can recruit in Arkansas if you get it done right. Then you can go into Texas. You can go into Oklahoma. You can go into Missouri. You can go to and Louisiana. You can go and recruit. If they actually get the coach Pittman's a good recruiter, and that's the thing. That's why he can win 8 games a year, because he can recruit. So that's why I picked Arkansas over Kentucky, and I've always been sweet on Arkansas.
I like Arkansas as well. I like Sam Pittman, but I mean, empirically, I don't disagree with anything you just said. I would say it's probably more fertile ground for potential, but you're recruiting against Texas and Oklahoma's and LSU.
Here's the other thing too, and I know you keep mentioning the NIL, and we need to do a video about the changes that are going to happen in college football. But Arkansas has the Walton family, and so I don't know.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that, but
I did. I know Walmart money. And then I had Kentucky for all the reasons that you had them. I just put them below Arkansas because Arkansas's been to more bowl games. Kentucky, if they actually got a quarterback and then skill guys, Kentucky would be really dangerous. But they're not a football program. That's why they're at number 11.
So who do you have for 12?
I have Oklahoma.
Ooh, yep. Man, you differ on that one too. You're way higher. I have Auburn.
I have Auburn down. So Oklahoma, to me, it is historically a really good place to go and win, and you can get it done right. But I think the NIL thing is screwing them up because they're having a hard time now stealing guys from Texas. And to me, that's a tough job to get people to come to where the hell are they?
Are they in Stillwater?
Oklahoma State. I was about to say Stillwater.
Oh.
Dude, why is this so bad?
Norman. By the way.
Yeah, I know. And it's really hard to, sell that.
Sorry to people living in Norman, Oklahoma, but
it's hard to sell that. And I don't know if I would really want that. And really, since 2020, they were in it. Were they in the playoff in 2020? Year? That was Lincoln Riley. So they were in it in 2020. They had a Heisman winner in 2021. Lincoln Riley leaves. They didn't make the playoffs that year. And then since then, they have just fallen off. And then the move to the SEC has been bad. I see them as a program on the decline. Now, if they get the right hire, maybe it could change. But I think it's one of the tougher jobs outside of Auburn. I think it's one of the toughest jobs in college football.
The reason I put them lower. You want me to get into why I put Oklahoma lower, or you want to wait till I have it on my list? Because they're low, bro.
Go ahead, since they're mentioned.
Well, I think all the reasons that I'm not going to belabor, like you just said. The other thing is, again, I did it not necessarily if I have any job available, would I want to take it. I looked at what has empirically been done under, over the last several years. Britt Venables, to me, is an absolute – I was really shocked, or have been shocked. I thought he would be a better coach. I think he's a good coordinator. Maybe he just can't handle the responsibilities. But that program and the way they were built under Lincoln Riley, he hasn't done enough to fix that. They're soft on the offensive and defensive line. They're physically soft. They're not built to be in the SEC. They got Oklahoma to contend with. You've got all these other Texas A&M to contend with, Missouri to contend with. And then, like you said, my recruiting pitch is come to Norman, Oklahoma and spend the winter. Thanks. I'd rather go to Austin. I appreciate it. But you know what I mean? So to me, that's the reason. Hold on. I'll tell you where I've got them. I got them 14th. So not way down. You got them 12th. I got them 14th. I got Auburn at number 12. The reason is I think there's a window of opportunity for Auburn. Like right now, they got money, bro. Those donors. Money. But had that job in terms of dealing with the donors, a different story, right? And almost like what you said with Florida, they expect to win now. So I don't know how much time this guy has, but I think they could steal some recruits. I think they could get some guys, and I think that coach is the best offensive coach in all of the SEC. That's what I would say.
Totally agree.
So I believe Auburn can be a much better program. Do I ever think they're going to? I don't know. Auburn can win a national championship, dude. They've done it.
Right.
So that's the reason I have them higher on my list. I have to go to a team, number 13, I have Arkansas. Like Sam Pittman, like the program. I just don't know, out there if you're ever going to be able to win and be able to compete for a national championship. It's just going to be hard. That's all I would say.
So I agree. It's hard, but if you can do it, that's the thing. So that's why I put them at 10, because you could. Missouri, it could. South Carolina, it could. I don't see Oklahoma or Kentucky doing it. Oklahoma, it would take a lot, I think, right now to do it. So you're going to laugh, but I'm being very serious, and I know I've always been a believer in them, so you know who it is already. But I've been a huge believer in them because I get it. I can see it. Vanderbilt, number 13. They could be like a Stanford. They have Nashville. You can get the smart, intelligent guys. You can play. If you could recruit the offensive, defensive line, have a consistent defense that's really good. In the run game, you saw it this year. I really dig what Clark Lee's putting down over there in Nashville. I think Vanderbilt, and by the way, super rich. No one talks about that. Really wealthy, and they got a huge.
But they don't care about football. They just don't.
But you can sell it. You can sell it to them. I'm telling you, I think Vanderbilt could be. I really do, and I know people. I have had people laugh at me since I was 10 years old, and I've been saying this. I think Vanderbilt could be a sleeping giant in the SEC. Everyone laughs, but I'm telling you, they are, because they could be a Stanford if they would just model themselves after Stanford. They were, for some reason,
you don't want to model after Stanford right now. They're lost, right?
No. They have Andrew Luck now. He's the general manager of their football team. I am sold on the stocks of.
Oh no, that's not true. You didn't hear?
What?
He tripped on the way to the office and he retired.
Yeah. Anyway, bless his heart, he got crushed.
Hey, look, dude, I give him all the credit in the world. I didn't have 340-pound defensive linemen knocking me around. I just thought it was a cheap joke. But anyway.
If they would model themselves after Stanford, they could be in that category of 8, 9 win, 10 even wins a year. I would take Vanderbilt over Auburn, Florida, and Mississippi State. Those are my bottom 3.
Wow. I got just so we know, I've got Vandy at 15. And it's the reason primarily they don't have a culture, an alumni base that seems to really care about football. The fact that I'll never forget, they forfeited a game. There's no team during COVID. There's no team that should ever do that in the SEC. So I've never forgiven them. I like Clark Lee. I agree with you. They got Nashville, and they got and they probably could be, but you can't make people care. And I don't. Clark Lee, even though he's an alumni, he doesn't strike me as a sales guy. He strikes
No,
me as a
he's
really
not.
good coach.
He's a very low energy guy.
Yeah, but he strikes me as a good coach. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. There was something that you just said, and for example, sidebar story time with Uncle Max. 2017. I don't know if you remember this, but we were there to watch Georgia play Vanderbilt. They drubbed them, right? It was I don't know. It was like 38-0. It was a blowout, and it was the third quarter, and something happened where somebody didn't make a tackle, somebody didn't make the right play, and we both went, that sucked. The Vanderbilt fan behind us said, they're up by 38. Why are they worried? And that's why Vanderbilt probably will never be as good as they should be because of that attitude. So that's why Vanderbilt will never be where they should be, or I think they should be. All right, number 14 for me was Auburn.
Let's see. What do we got? 12, 13. No, we're on number 14?
Yeah, you did 13 already.
Yeah. I have Arkansas at number 13, right? I have Vandy. I have Oklahoma at number 14.
Okay.
For all the reasons that we talked about.
Yeah, same with Auburn. Same reason. I think it's one of the hardest. I think it is the hardest job in the country.
I agree. It's one of. Yep.
Yeah. 15, you had Vandy.
Yep.
15, I have Florida. I think their athletic department's a mess. I think their fan base is crazy as hell. I think it's a really hard job. Like I said, you got to recruit Miami, Florida State, Georgia, Bama, then the rest of the country that you got to deal with that want to come in and get kids from Florida. I think the Florida fans have really stupid. I think they're just stupid. I think they have way too high of expectations, and that's why they will always cannibalize their program. If you need to have the absolute most alpha coach to run Florida, Spurrier, Meyer, you need those guys. Billy Napier, non-alpha. Dan Mullen, cuck. So he let his players. Anyway, don't talk about that. So that's what you have to do, and they're not doing it, and that's why I would not touch Florida. It would be, honestly, it would be a debate, and it really truly was, because they've been such a disaster since 2020. It was a debate between Florida and Mississippi State on which one I would rather go to.
I mean, all the reasons that I've already said, I know we've debated it, but I agree with you, even though I've got a much higher. I totally agree with you about the coach. You have got to be an alpha in Florida, but I think you can win. I think the fan base, yes, they're crazy and they're dumb, but they're going to throw money. If you win, they're going to throw money, and you're in a recruiting base down there and a fan base that's rabid to win. That's the reason I had Florida so much higher. And historically, they have been a dominant program in the SEC.
Here's the other thing, too, and we'll wrap this up, too. It seems to me that if you're going to win at Florida, you have to have an alpha head coach, and then you have to have a generational quarterback. Spurrier, Wuerffel, Meyer, Tim Tebow. You have to have a quarterback. And
I don't think you have to. I disagree. I think you can do it with also, I think you could build a hell of a defense down there. And I think you have almost like you said with, forgot what other team, and then just run the ball and have a quarterback that can threaten. Yeah. I think that could be a model for Florida. I mean, they used to have so much speed and so many good skill players. That's still possible for Florida.
Yeah, it is. But if you got to contend with Georgia, who's on the up and up with recruiting, you got to deal with Miami, who's always going to be good at recruiting. Florida State they're right there. I mean, they're They are literally taking that whole South Georgia, North Florida. I mean, they're in the same recruiting zone as you. And then you have Alabama coming in, and then you got Auburn, and then you got Ohio State, and then you got Michigan. You got all these guys coming in. It's a lot of work, and if you don't get it done in the first 2 years, you're barbecued.
Well, that's the other thing too. Look at some of the receivers that Tennessee has. See, look, I'm pretty sure a lot of those guys are coming from Florida.
Yeah.
They're wanting to play in that offense that Heupel's got up there. So Tennessee's a major player down in Florida as well with that offense Heupel runs. But you and I both agree, poor old Starkville, old Mississippi State. First of all, who wants to go there? It's out in the middle of a pine forest. Go to Tuscaloosa and hang a left. And then you're in the state of Mississippi. Oxford makes that bearable because that's a good city. Starkville's a shithole. Sorry, Starkville. I mean, and the coaching, you're talking about, they can't seem to get that right either down there.
Hey, look, to give them credit, they had it right with Mike Leach. Obviously, bad, that what happened was really bad, and they're still kind of putting the pieces together after all that happened. But Mississippi State historically has been a basement dweller. I mean, if you're like Vanderbilt's ahead of Mississippi State, they have more history. Mississippi State has always been. The college is in a strip mall. I mean, have you seen some of the like?
I've been through.
Is literally a strip mall. They don't have a really big base. They're always going to be number 2 to Ole Miss, and they just never been anything. So I mean, Dan Mullen was the best thing they had, and they weren't really good then.
Well, they had everybody full for a couple of weeks, but. No, I agree with you. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what they do. And in the era of NIL, I mean, Mississippi State needs to focus on basketball and baseball and try to be good at those. And they are. They've historically been, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they won an championship in baseball a couple of years ago.
Yeah. By the way, people who are stuck with this long, watch the video with the guy from Mississippi State's fan when he's being interviewed on how he paid for his trip to go to the College World Series. Pretty good.
Well, all right. Well, there's the rankings. I gotta tell you, really wrong on the whole thing about Texas and Georgia. I mean, dead.
Well, I said I reserve my judgment, but if I'm looking at it as I'm trying to be as objective as I possibly could, and I think right now you would have to put Texas ahead of Georgia in terms of the program.
No, I don't, because they have 2 national championships and Texas has 0. And by the way, Texas shouldn't have been in the 2 years ago in the playoff, and then they had the easiest route. If Georgia had to win the SEC and then turn around and get Notre Dame, and then Texas gets Clemson and Arizona State, how does that work? Again,
they've been in the playoffs the last 2 years, my man. And they got money and they got a recruiting base.
They shouldn't have been. They're chokers. They choke. They're not a good program. I don't know why. Everyone blows them. They can have all the money in the world. They can be Saudi Arabia. They cannot do it. They cannot. Well, I'm so tired.
Like I said, I reserve the right to change my mind. If Georgia comes out and dominates this year and gets into the playoffs again, I'll maybe change it. But I also question, I'm questioning my own list. I based Alabama on where they have been, but I'm not too sure this guy is going to make it there.
Well, no, I think that was a bet. See, I think we both agree on that. I think Alabama can always be there with a Georgia and a Texas and LSU. They got to get the right coach. And if they don't have the right coach, it's all downhill. It's kind of like Florida in a lot of ways. I think it's a lot easier because you have Alabama behind.
It's funny to me how dilute. I mean, we're not on here to pick fights, but all those years that Alabama with Shula and the guy that DeBose, or what was his name? DeBose?
Mike DeBose.
Yeah, and all those other guys, they were in the wilderness. But Alabama always thinks, so that can happen again to Alabama. Because that fan base, you talking about, like you said, Florida?
Yeah.
They're nuts, right?
Yeah.
And they expect to win right now. And if you don't, not only are you probably going to lose your job, you might lose your life down there. So I don't know. We'll see how it turns out with this guy, but I don't know if he's going to be a good fit.
Well,
And I think that's a difficult spot for him to be in, to follow the GOAT.
yeah. Here's our preview in August. I don't think Alabama's going to be as good as they were this year. I think they're going to regress more.
Woo,
From
son.
what I've seen.
Well, tell us what you think, listeners on our list. I mean, I'm sure we can nitpick it apart, but I think, and even though we have some differences, I think in general agreement on a lot of where we place the top 3 or 4 programs we got pretty much.
Yeah, well, minus the biggest one. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Remember, check us out on all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, Elon's Fantasy World. Remember to like and subscribe. Keep subscribing. Hit the notification bell whenever we pop up, because it's going to be a little bit more sparse. Also, we're going to do a Braves thing probably in the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Talking about the Braves and looking forward to the season that they're about to have. And then our presenting sponsor, Unishippers, give us a pitch.
We work with small to medium-sized companies, helping them reduce their shipping cost. Anything from a small envelope all the way up to a full truck. So if you're looking at your budget and you think your shipping costs have gotten out of line, reach out to us. We'll do a no obligation cost analysis and ask for Holland Martin, and we'd be happy to do what we can for you.
All right. Shout out Holland, and see you on the next video.
See ya.